Yes, welcome. It's the Matt Sager Podcast, episode 102. We're already into our second 100 episodes, and it's only just getting started. It's Tuesday night in New York City, and the weather is awful. I mean, it's blizzarding, snow, and pouring rain, and the wind is taking all this stuff. The snow, the rain, the dirt, and just sort of lifting it all up and throwing it at you sideways, so even an umbrella really does nothing for you. What you need is a long parka, which I do not have. I've got a normal-sized parka, and I've got a long sort of dress coat, neither of which is doing me much good in this weather. I don't want to take my nice long dress coat. It makes me feel like a private eye and go out and get it all wet, rainy, snowy. Because for one thing, it does nothing to protect me. For another thing, it'll destroy the coat. But the parka, it covers me from like my shoulders to just above my waist, and that's pretty much it. I need to begin shopping more practically for weather that is now increasingly just so unpredictable. Having lived in New York my entire long-ass life, I really thought I had outfits for every occasion, every type of weather. But as that weather has gone ever more insane, my wardrobe is becoming a bit, not obsolete, but it needs to adapt for these new challenges that we face. So, if you heard this podcast yesterday, you know that I'm struggling with a little bit of a health issue, and I did make a point yesterday of mentioning that I've got some amazing doctors, and I believe I used terminology to the effect of, like, all my doctors are amazing, or my entire medical team is spotless. And I would just like to add a caveat to that, a disclaimer, that every specialist I have, which is, after all, 99.99999% of your doctors are some kind of specialist, be they an allergist, orthopedist, pain specialist, ENT doctor, or let me see if I can pronounce this right. Otolaryngological, I believe is how you pronounce it, but just say ENT. Or, if you must, a doctor for all the head holes. Don't try and call it by its real name, not because you don't respect the profession. I certainly do. But because you're very likely to mangle it, and in doing so, risk insulting those specialists. So, all my specialists are amazing. What I can't get and what I'd really like is an even halfway decent general practitioner. A doctor, your primary care provider, PCP. I've been through something like a dozen of them in the past 3 to 4 years, and they only get worse with each time. And if you go to them and say, listen, I'm having a problem, I would like you to do this, or I'd like you to do that, they will often tell you, and I actually appreciate this honesty, that listen, in this age of increasingly fragmented medical fields, all we do is sort of act like air traffic controllers or a traffic cop in the road. We help navigate you to good referrals, and we do our best to keep up with your chart by speaking with the people to whom we refer you or to doctors that you find for yourself, and we keep a record of your health. And that's fine. That's all I want and more. That's totally okay. Problem is, A, these doctors will then, immediately after you sign up with them, in my experience, the ones I've been dealing with, me personally, I'll catch up with them like the day after we agree that that's going to be our arrangement. You just give me referrals, keep track of my health, we're fine. That's all I want from you. And then I'll say, listen, I need help with this part of my body, or I need help with that infection in this part of my body. And they'll say, well, don't bother me. I got stuff to do. And I'll say, well, but didn't you say you were going to refer me to people? Yeah, but not just any old time. Call me in a week. And health doesn't really work that way. I'm kind of astonished at how many medical professionals I encounter who are like, what, you can't wait a week to deal with your sinus infection? And no, I can't wait a week for you to call me back and give me a list of names of ENTs, some of whom may be good, some of whom are not, some of whom may or may not be accepting new patients, some of whom are or are not covered by my benefit package, my insurance, you know? Nor can I wait 7 days, assuming that out of the names and numbers you give me, I call the first one and I'm able to make an appointment immediately. I can't wait 7 days to begin that process while my untreated infection rages throughout my body, spreading to my eyes, my skin. It just doesn't work that way. And it's very weird when you find yourself having those conversations with doctors. So the truth is, this is not to pat myself on the back. This is really, again, all about praising these specialists. But with no help from any PCP, I've put together this list of amazing specialists for allergies and this field of medicine and that kind of body pain, etc., etc. And they'll often say stuff, especially when I'm really I'm dealing with something risky and they know that they've got to give me a rather extreme therapy for it, like a new drug, an operation even at times. And they'll say, just as long as you're communicating to your PCP that we're doing all this, your primary care provider. And I always say, I am, but I don't think they're reading it. And they always go, ha, 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 I know, Matt, you're such a dry wit. You're such a card. No, the truth is, no PCP I've had in 7 or 8 years will even read an email for me describing an operation which I've had. They don't do anything for me. And the truth is, I need a PCP. I simply do. Because A, these specialists will not treat me if I don't give them a number to call of someone who's my doctor. It used to be the most simple thing in the world. It used to be that the specialists were the anomaly. Now it's a decent primary care provider is like the missing link. It's impossible to find, like almost mythical creature. So if you are in the New York area and you know of a good primary care provider, general practitioner, internist, whatever you want to call them, I would love for you to recommend me to them. I'd be deeply grateful, in fact. I'm covered everywhere else. Allergies, dermatology, bones. Like, all of my body basically has one specialist or another looking at it and taking care of it. But I don't have someone directing traffic, sending me referrals, keeping track of what all these referrals and specialists, what they've got to say about me, collating all their records about me. So if you think you've got a great doctor in the New York area, I promise you, this isn't some prank. I'm not going to bother them other than to perhaps give them my money and sign up with them as a client. So if you've got someone you recommend, or if you're a doctor yourself, I don't care about age, I don't care about gender, I only care that they're in Manhattan, New York City, and that they take my insurance, which I'm not going to give out over the air, but if you get in touch with me, I'll figure it out. So email matt@mattsager.com or call 646-535-4788, or listen in just a couple minutes to the end of tonight's episode, and I'll give out a few more ways for you to get in touch with me. The main reason for tonight's episode is to get caught up on movie trailers, which I'm woefully behind on, in large part, again, because of this medical shit I was dealing with last week, and to a lesser extent this week. I'm still cleaning it up. But there's been a ton of exciting new trailers that have been released. Firstly, there's a new sneak peek trailer for Dumbo, and yes, I will provide links in the description for tonight's podcast episode for all of these, because I'm not going to play them on the air and talk over them. Not these trailers anyway, not tonight. But Dumbo looks great. And then, just when you think that Disney's really got their act together and this whole live action initiative is going to be a huge success, because to look at Dumbo, it certainly seems as though that's the case. And then you go over to Aladdin. Oh, wow. Will Smith, all dolled up like a member of the Blue Man Group as the genie, it actually induces in me something akin to nausea. Not that I find him disgusting or the character disgusting, but you've heard the phrase the uncanny valley, right? It's where something artificial, like a doll or a robot, comes incredibly close to simulating humanity, but falls just short enough so that your senses don't know what to do. They don't know how to process it. Like, you're looking at something that is human-shaped, acts like a human, talks like a human. It almost all comes together as a human, and yet it's clearly a machine, and perhaps in the interest of avoiding a future Battlestar Galactica-type dystopia, human beings, myself being one of them, has this built-in it's not something you want. It's not a response you're seeking out, but you can't help but sort of get nauseous and dizzy and just feel weird and uncomfortable and a little bit scared. I never imagined applying the term uncanny valley or any of those other descriptors I've just listed to apply to Will Smith, but this may be Disney's kryptonite. Many people have said, oh, that's not the final version, or this is just a production concept, but it's not. It calls itself the Aladdin trailer. It boasts of showing Will Smith as the genie. This is clearly something they want people to see and get excited about and start talking about, and to a certain degree, they've succeeded. I'm certainly talking about it. I don't know if excited is the word. Certainly not enthused. Horrified, sure. That I will grant you. But I do hold out hope. Aladdin was a wonderful, wonderful movie. Anyone stepping into Robin Williams' shoes is going to have a difficult time of it, but it's not Will Smith that's the problem. It's what they've done to him. It's the shape of his character, the blueness of it all. There's no actor. I imagine Will Smith is as good as it gets for this, but there's no actor who you could put in that role as the live-action genie. Dress him up in blue, make him look giant-sized, and it just throws off your sense of, like, ratio and size. The perspective is just, it's dizzying, and not in the, ooh, magical dizziness kind of way. I mean, like, you get dizzy and a little bit nauseous, or I did anyway. So here's hoping for the best for Aladdin, but at this point, I would describe myself as a potential customer. If you were to ask me for one word to describe this most recent Aladdin trailer featuring Will Smith, that word would be scared. And speaking of scary trailers, wow. All right, let me get the not so scary, not so great one out of the way first. I mean, it's good looking, but it doesn't look like it's reinventing the wheel or like it's anything amazing. The rebooted Child's Play dropped a trailer about a week ago. Like I said, I'm very behind on this stuff, and it looks very good. I don't know that it looks any better than another Chucky movie would look. And I know, for instance, that people involved with the Chucky franchise are quite irked by all this, but that's to be expected. Like, if you've been working on a property for years and years and years, and then they reboot it without your participation, the bitterness of the people involved with that first go-round may or may not have anything to do with the actual quality of the movie. It may be, I know it would be in my case, I would be pissed, but I wouldn't expect my anger to actually impact the experience of a filmgoer who's watching this new Child's Play. But I will say that it doesn't look to me like it really was necessary or like it's accomplishing anything amazing, but it's a minute and I think 12 seconds long trailer, and that's it. So there are many more trailers to come. It certainly doesn't look bad. I just don't know that Child's Play needed a reboot, but we'll see. It's fine. It's not upsetting like Aladdin. So there's that. But you know what is upsetting, and in a very good way? Holy shit. you've got to watch the latest trailer for Pet Sematary. John Lithgow as Judd is amazing. Ditto Jason Clarke as Louis Creed and his entire family, who I'm not going to give anything away, although the trailer will. Look for the link in the description for tonight's podcast episode. It basically walks you through what you ought to know by now. If you've read Pet Sematary, if you've listened to the amazing audiobook narrated by Michael C. Hall, i.e. Dexter, or seen the original film, you basically know what to expect. You don't know how awesome it is. It is amazing looking. And finally, a movie that looks spectacular and one that walks between two worlds. The world that we know, our own human history, and of course, the world of Middle-earth. The trailer for Tolkien from Fox Searchlight. They released their trailer today, February 12th, and it looks just astonishing. With Nicholas Hoult as Tolkien himself in World War I, they make it very, very plain in the span of, again, like a 70-second long trailer, that what you're witnessing in this movie, Tolkien, is the true story about a man pulled out of his little hole where he liked to be in comfort and solitude and peace, and dragged into a terrifying adventure with fire and bombs and fighter planes. It's about World War I and the effect it had on Tolkien and how it would later inform his works, from The Hobbit to The Silmarillion, how the worlds of war helped him define the world of Middle-earth. That's hardly unique. You know, many doctors will tell you, and I think the Serling family themselves will tell you, quite readily, without any kind of pressure, that The Twilight Zone was largely informed and greatly influenced by Rod Serling's experience in the war, the PTSD he brought back with him, the sense of humanity, and what xenophobia and fear and anger can do to people. All that stuff informs just about every episode of The Twilight Zone, including the many, many stories that were not even Serling originals that he would buy from, like, Robert Bloch. He would either see something in them that spoke to him and his particular sense of the weird and how he used it to channel his own real personal trauma, or if it didn't, he would tinker with it just a little bit, as one would expect when one options a story or a book for a 30-minute television episode, and he would inform it with that stuff he picked up on in the war. That stuff about humanity, man's inhumanity to their fellow man, fear, horror, action, violence, death, all that. Tolkien looks just amazing. So check out the link for that in the description for tonight's podcast, along with the links for my social media profiles. Like, let's see, there's Twitter @MattSager. Facebook, I'm the Matt Sager. I've also got a voiceover page there, Matt Sager VO. And this podcast page is there as well, Matt Sager Podcast. You can also, as I said, email matt@mattsager.com or call 646-535-4788. Also, look in the description for tonight's podcast episode for links to my Patreon, patreon.com/Matt Sager, and my merch store for my good friends at wehavemerch.com, where you can get Matt Sager Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and stickers. You can also get me on Instagram, where I'm Real Matt Sager. And for everything else, my articles, blog posts, voiceover reels, and contact information, even archived back episodes of this very podcast, you can find all of that at mattsagervoiceover.com.